Welcome back to episode 2 of the Flip Side podcast, where we talk about the prosaic and tedious administrative side of music, giving you guys insight into how independent artists navigate this monstrous machine that we call the music industry. Today we've got a rising voice from Toronto's underground music scene, here to talk about his new album, his craft, and why he's becoming one of Canada's most exciting names to watch. I'd like to welcome Soares to the Flip Side.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on this podcast. It's actually a blessing to be here. You know what? I've seen you around. I've seen you on the internet, and I've seen that you guys just started up this podcast. So, you know what? I had to hit you up and just get involved. You know what I mean? Not only to help you guys, but to also get my name heard and out there as well. You know what I mean? So to get you guys promoted and to get myself and my music promoted, it's like it benefits the both of us. You know what I mean? So it's a blessing to be here.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So, first of all, tell us about Soares. Who are you, and how did you get started with making music, man?
So
What's your why?
So Soares is actually my name. It is my last name, right?
Okay.
And when I first started music a couple years back, I actually did it with my first and last name. But with years going by, probably in about a year, I decided to just stick with Soares instead because it just suited me a lot more. And I had a few people around me who told me that you should just stick with that specific name because it just suits you. You know what I mean? Instead of a whole, big name, just keep it nice, short, and simple. And we don't know anybody out here that's named Soares. You know what I mean? So the one and only right here. You know what I mean?
Understandable.
It's a very typical last name. Honestly, it's because I'm Portuguese as my background, so it's a very typical last name. But in terms of using it as a stage name, nobody's out here doing that. So I'm the one and only. You know what I mean? So I just stuck with that name, and I
Right.
just been rolling with it.
I haven't seen anybody with that name yet, at least in, my, searches through through Spotify and stuff like that. So
There you go.
definitely a unique name. The first thing when you first started saying, no, it's my last name, it reminded me of like in middle school, at least here in the United States, like we used to just call each other by their last name. And we're
Yeah.
like, yo, what's up, Smith? But see, I have a problem though. My last name is 11 letters long. It's really, really hard to pronounce. Not really hard to pronounce, but so I just shortened it and just told people to call me Flip instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice, short, and simple. You know what I mean?
I hate when people put like the dollar sign. People have their artist names as like it looks like a license plate. I can't stand it
Yeah.
because I am terrible at pronouncing names as it is.
So when you have that many letters, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
man. So who inspired you to pursue music, and who are your influences, man? I noticed that you're kind of like a melodic R&B rapper kind of style. Tell me about that, man.
Yeah, you're right on the dot there. Honestly, I would say in terms of influence, I would say that I've heard music all my life. And I would say that, growing up I've listened to artists like, Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, Justin Bieber, Drake, and all these, these artists out here. And they really influenced me to really start music. You know what I mean? Just by their
Okay.
sound, but like the type of music they do and just like how they, how they
Very
perform on stage.
soulful,
And
kind of like passionate. I could hear the passion
exactly.
in a lot of their voice. I can hear it in your music too, man. I did go through your library a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I like to put a lot of emotion into my music, and those types of artists, they really influence me to do something like this, especially artists like Juice World as well, which
mhm.
is actually one of the biggest influences of mine. He expressed so much emotion and like stuff that can relate to so many people listening to his music on his songs, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what made me want to do something like that, you know what I mean? Because we all deal with problems in our life. We all deal with different things, you know what I mean? Whether it's, heartbreak or financial problems or, just family problems in general. And we all deal with different things. And when I can put something like that into music and somebody's listening to it and they feel it
They
while
relate
listening
to
to
it.
it, they can relate to it. And then they hit me up and they say, hey, I relate to this song or I relate to these type of lyrics. and this and that. It really, it's a different feeling. It hits differently for me. You know what I mean? It really makes me feel like, you know what, like I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm their, therapy in terms of listening. You know, when people listen to music and you're like, music is my therapy.
Yep.
Maybe my music to
That was
them.
me. That was me growing up, man. I was a DJ. I ended up becoming a DJ, but so I listened to like everything over the years.
Yeah,
But I mean, to me, music was an escape too, man. I absolutely understand that.
there
You
you
had
go.
mentioned some about people, your fans reaching out to you saying that, hey, I resonate with this song. Like, what was the one of the most profound things you might have heard from like one of your fans, um, about your
Um,
music?
it really, I had a fan one time message me, and actually not only message me, but he actually bumped into me um in public,
In
and
person?
he told
Nice.
me in person. I've had crazy stories of how people really run up to me in person, and I have wild stories about that. But this specific person really came up to me and told me that, you know what, hey brother, I don't mean to bother you, but I've dealt with this serious heartbreak, and this one specific song of yours really touched me, and it made me go through what I was dealing with. You know what I mean? And to tell me that in person is wild, because telling me something in person, in message, is
Right.
one thing. It's like, yeah, I can tell you a message, and like, and the other side they're probably thinking, oh, he don't care. Now when you're
Right,
telling me in
things
person,
kinda get lost in translation when you're putting it out in, like, a text format, like, it loses kind of, like, emotion and connection, I feel like sometimes, but
exactly.
to have someone come up to you and say something like that, man, I could only imagine how it felt.
Exactly. No, it was amazing, man. And I told him, like, he told me to keep going, and to keep doing music like this, because it's just his therapy. You know what I mean? Like, it really helped him out a lot. And when I heard that, it just made me feel like, you know what? Like, I really do have true fans out here who are taking in my lyrics and not just listening just to listen. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's a good feeling. I love that, honestly. And that's what I love about my fans.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. So, alright, so, when inspiration strikes, how do you drop everything and create, man? Did any, like, administrative tasks kind of killer create your vibe? So I try to, expose a little bit more of, like, the back end side of the music industry in my podcast as well. So there's a lot of as an artist manager, I handle a lot of the administrative stuff for my artists, but I understand that a lot of artists that are just starting out don't necessarily have a manager or have somebody who's helping them with a lot of those administrative tasks like registering their music and copyright and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
does any of that kind of get in your way? Do you assign that task to one of your team members, or how do you get ready for the creative process when you're sitting down to make a song, man?
You know what? Like, I try not to think too much of it, because I feel like when we as an artist overthink too much about these things like copywriting, and you got to register this in order to get your royalties and this and that. It's all common sense, really. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it would be a big help if you have a team around you or a manager that can help you with those things on the side while you're just creating the music.
Hmm.
Now, when you're doing it all together, it could become a handful and a little much at times. And
Right.
that's me personally right now, because I don't have necessarily a manager. I have a team around me, but they don't necessarily help me with, registration and copyright. They just basically tell me the simple things like, oh, you got to get this done, or you got to get this done because you don't want your song stolen or your lyrics stolen, and you want to get paid for it and stuff like that. The common things that, any artist would like to hear, or, get knowledge of.
Right.
I've literally learned this all myself. You know, Obviously I've had people around me who've spoken about it as well. So I can't necessarily say that I've went into the internet or did some research myself, because obviously, during a conversation, you're starting to learn a lot more. And, being in a room with specifically big artists or even big people in the industry, you start to learn a lot more. So it's kind of like you're bringing in more knowledge and
Yep.
more, things that will benefit you in the long run in this industry. And it took me time to learn all of this about the music business specifically, because I feel like the music business nowadays is bigger than just the music itself nowadays, you know? And I think that's important for any artist out there to really learn about. And it took me time and years to really learn about this, but I did it. And honestly, I would say that I did it myself. And I don't necessarily think I need a manager right now, or even a label in that case right now, because I feel like I've been doing it for so long by myself that I'm capable of doing it still until, a certain, maybe a certain time that would possibly need some help in terms of like, marketing and promoting, because it does cost money in the end of the day, and it's
Yep.
not cheap. It's a lot of money that rolls in there, right? So
Yeah, man.
that's where it becomes a little difficult, but I try not to think too much about it. I just keep doing what I got to do, and if anything comes in the long run and comes my way, then I'm more than willing to take it. I take any opportunity that comes my way.
Awesome, man. I mean, I'm glad that you took the opportunity to reach out to me, man, and join us for the
Absolutely.
podcast too, man. That's really awesome.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that you recently dropped your debut album. It's Not You, It's Me. Um,
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What are some of the influences for the album? What's the album about?
The album is basically about, relationship situations. When you're in a relationship with a woman, or you're in a relationship with a man, and you've been together for so many years or a couple months or whatever the case may be, we all go through different situations in that relationships, in terms of toxic and just problems that come along the way in it, financial and all that stuff, and people getting cheated on and things like that.
In there,
This
man.
album really reflected. This album really reflected on something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I've dealt with so much problems in relationships before in my past, that I just decided to put it into an album, because again, it would just relate. A lot of people just relate to it, you know and
Yeah,
we all
man.
deal with these problems. I'm sure you have, I have, and I'm sure anybody else listening to this has probably heard it, has probably dealt with
Absolutely.
this problem. You know what I mean? So that's basically what this album is all about: relationship problems, toxic problems that come along the way in it, and how to just build a better relationship. You know what I mean? How to find the right person.
Gotcha.
So that's really what
Right.
it's all about.
Hey, man, I like it. Um, were there any skills that you learned in the process of making this album specifically that you might not have like expected or like known about before releasing? I think you said this is your debut album, so I don't know if you released
Yeah.
like any like smaller EPs or anything before that or just singles. But was there anything different about putting out the album as opposed to any of the music that you had released prior to this? Because I know that I think you released your first song in like 2021.
Yeah.
I believe it was. I did a little bit of research. um, so is there
Yeah.
anything that you learned like in this album that you might not have known about before that?
I've learned a lot, honestly. I dropped an EP, I believe it was last year, a 5-song EP.
Okay,
It's all a blur, and I've learned a lot doing this album. I think that when we release a single, it's not as difficult as releasing an album or an EP or any type of project, because us as an artist, when we're working on a project or an album, we want it to be great. You know, we want it to make sense. We want it to be put together properly.
cohesive.
And
Yeah,
exactly, you know what I mean? And it takes time to really and you're also working on your craft. Don't get it mistaken, especially when it's a debut album, you're still working on your craft. Maybe you're trying something new,
yep.
and that was me in this album. I've never done a 10-song album before. All I can say is that it really was tiring. It
I
was
could
very
I can
tiring
imagine,
to.
man, and I mean, whole marketing, the rollout process of it is different. You probably released a few singles off the album first, and then drop the full album later on. It's a
Yeah,
different process than just I'm gonna release a single, which
exactly.
you can do like 3 weeks of marketing for probably and get away with. But album,
Exactly.
I'm sure you were probably spending. How long did you spend on making this album? Was it like a few
I
month process? Was it 6 months, a year?
usually people say, when they release an album, they say it takes them about a year to 2 years. I wish I've taken that long, because I feel like I maybe needed a bit more time to really make it 10 times better than what it is right now. I still think that it needed a bit more work, but again, it's not bad. You know what I mean? It's a really good album, and it's good for starters, because this is,
Hindsight
again, this
2020, right?
exactly, again, this is an experience for, like, my next upcoming albums. You know what I mean? Maybe I should take my time more on it. Roughly, this album took me about 4 to 6 months just to
Okay.
get done, all from scratch. I didn't use any songs that were in the vault, and I just
Oh,
put it all together to make a project. This was all from scratch, from finding beats to writing lyrics, and it took about 6 months to getting it mixed and mastered and submitting it to my distributor and this and that to get it in all platforms. It took time to really put this album together. And in terms of marketing, again, it took a bit of money to put in there as well.
of course, man.
Again,
Gotta spend money to make money, man. That's the
exactly,
sad truth about the music industry. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying to you.
absolutely, absolutely, man, absolutely.
um,
But again, it was really I enjoyed it. It was a good learning experience. And again, like if you haven't heard the album yet, for anybody listening to this right now, for those of you who haven't heard it, I suggest that you guys go listen to it and maybe give me some some what's the word I'm
feedback.
looking for? Feedback.
Some
Exactly. Yeah.
feedback. Yeah, man. Guys, go
Exactly.
check out
That's what I mean.
Soares. His new album, It's Not You, It's Me. Um, he actually sent over a track for us to listen to. You sent over a track from the album. Let me see. What was it called?
No
What
more
was the
waiting.
track? I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the one that you sent over. Why did you choose that track off the album to send over? I'm gonna play it here for them here in a minute,
Yes.
so that they can give it a listen as well, get a little taste of what's on the album. But was there a specific reason why you chose that song?
I specifically chose that song because it was probably one of my top songs off the album. A lot of
Okay,
people who listen to it, they love that song and they say it was probably one of my best songs they've heard. So that's exactly why I sent it to you and for the people to listen to right now. I feel like a lot of people would probably enjoy it. I mean, it's a very calm track, and it's you could drive at night. It would be long night drives, and you could listen to this in the car, and it would hit different.
is
So
there like a story behind it? Like, what does it mean to you? This
so
specific track.
the story behind this track is basically it's like don't wait for love. Like you can't be just standing around just waiting for love. And especially if you lost a specific person, don't be waiting for them and thinking they're gonna come back and things are just gonna change and turn into roses and sunshine because it's not gonna be it. You know what I mean? And this song specifically, I was tired of waiting. I was done waiting and I had to just, get the strength to move on. And I'm sure that a lot of people out here listening to this song, I'm sure that, I hope that it makes you feel the same way and that you got to move on from this specific person, especially if it's toxic or if it's just not healthy in general for you. It's time to move on. There's a lot of fish in the sea. And, you could just find so much better for yourself. Whether you're a girl or a guy, you could just find so much better for yourself. And that's why this song is called No More Waiting, because again, you can't be waiting no more. You know what I mean? There's no more waiting, no
And
more time to be waiting. None
you
of
ever
that.
see you ever see that meme where it's like the skeleton and it's like me waiting for the perfect person. It's like a
Exactly.
skeleton skin, nothing but bones.
Yeah, exactly,
um,
exactly. That's a really good example.
yeah, man. So that being said, guys, this is No More Waiting by Soares. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll be right back.
I'm moving. No more waiting on your love, cause I've upgraded. Moving on to something better, I've done waited. Have you stressing over things cause you downgraded? Now faded, who is now hated? No more waiting on your love, cause I've upgraded. Moving on to something better, I've done waited. Have you stressing over things cause you downgraded? Now faded, who is now hated? Girl, you selling yourself a failure. Always knew she was a hoe from the moment I met her. Always knew you were a hoe by your hoish behavior. Girl, I've seen it all before, like I'm under the Matrix. New bitch, she on the same shit. Swear to God, I'm seeing double. Guess maybe I should quit. Yeah, quit looking for love. Cause every girl I ever loved, I knew it wasn't forever. Like, you got me writing you letters. Maybe someday you'll read them, having something to treasure. Hoping better under pressure, we can try it however. I ain't good with second chances, but with you is whatever. No more waiting on your love, cause I've upgraded. Moving on to something better, I've done waited. Have you stressing over things cause you've downgraded? Now faded, who was now hated. No more waiting on your love cause I've upgraded. Moving on to something better, I done waited. Have you stressing over things cause you've downgraded. Now faded, who is now hated.
So I've been enjoying the conversation so far.
Honestly, I wanted to ask you, like, what made you want to start this podcast?
So I got involved with being so I was a DJ for 15 years, mostly in the entertainment side of music. And then about 2 years ago, a friend of mine that I met online asked me to start editing videos for him. And then about 6 months after that, he asked me to be his manager because I was good at reading contracts and license. I was reading over the licenses for like the beats that he was buying and stuff like that. And he actually deleted the emails with licenses for like most of his catalog, and he had to like. I was like, dude, you need to go back and find those licenses. God
Yeah.
forbid something happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, did you know that these licenses expire in 10 years and you can only send them to one radio station, and you can't sync license these? And he was like, no, I didn't know any of that. I didn't even read the license. I bought an unlimited license. I thought it meant that I could use it for whatever I want. And I was like, no, there's a license that comes with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have to read that, and you have to keep it somewhere safe.
Yeah.
So that was really an eye-opening moment, and it was a good friend of mine. I didn't want to see him, get taken advantage of or something bad happen to him because he just didn't know. And he kind of got pushed into the music industry because he went viral online for a freestyle that he did. And he used that opportunity and the money he was making from that to kind of launch his music career. And to me, it was just like I didn't want to see something bad happen to my friend. And when he asked me to be his manager, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And then the last like year and a half, almost 2 years, I've just been like a sponge, absorbing everything that I could find about the back end of the music industry. Because I'm not a music artist myself. Not a I can sing, but I'm not a songwriter. I don't make beats.
But you have the knowledge of it.
Exactly. Well,
You have
I
some
was
knowledge. I respect
like I
that.
said, I was a DJ for 15 years. I've heard almost every fucking song you could possibly think of. Anything that
yeah.
was ever on the fucking radio for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So and then, after about a year and a half of that, my other friend, Half Deezy, he's the CEO and owner of Smile My Records. He's also a music artist. He's been doing it for 25 years. He taught a lot, like you were saying earlier, about like just being in the studio and around those kinds of people. You learn a lot. You learn a lot more than per se like how much you would learn on watching YouTube or something like that.
For
You
sure.
can learn so much, but being able to ask those questions directly to somebody who's been through it or has the experience is, I feel like, a much more valuable than me going and watching like Top Music Attorney on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. You'll get so much hidden gems off these guys. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so I kind of leaned on him a lot when I first started with the being a manager for my friend, and then he asked me to join the team. He's got a few artists on his label, and he was like, "I just want you to join the team," and essentially what my job is to make sure that they're copywriting their music, they're registering their songs with their PROs and mechanical licensing and sound exchange. Sync licensing, pitching their music for sync licensing, radio,
Yep. Very
podcast
important.
interviews like this. I get them on other podcasts as well. So, and to me, like I'm a very like logical kind of person. I'm very analytical. I like to do research. I like to, find little things on the internet that people may not have found before and just share it with other people. I was a streamer for years playing video games, and I would help people set up OBS and stuff like that for their
Yeah.
live broadcasting. So it's more of just wanting to share the knowledge that I've learned with other people. So that was kind of like where the podcast came from, man.
I like that. We need more people like you because we don't have a lot of people like this in this industry, especially nowadays, man. We don't. A lot
Hey,
of
man,
people
there's a lot of
just
sharks
think
out there,
stuff.
man, that just
Exactly.
want to get their
We're all
piece,
chasing the same thing. We're all chasing the same thing, and they just stick with what they have learned, and they just keep it to themselves, and they don't want to share it. And that's the problem with this industry nowadays. Nobody wants to help each other. It's all kind of like, it's very rare to find people like yourself. You know what I mean? We need more people like you. You know what I mean? Because why not go up together? Why do we have to push other people
Why do we
down?
have to be competitive? Why can't we be collaborative? Like what? Like why
Exactly.
do I have to compete against you when we could
Exactly.
collaborate and help each other up? I feel like a lot of the
Absolutely.
times that falls down on like how people feel about themselves. It's easier to drag people down to your level with your own weight
Yep.
than it is to try to lift somebody up with your own strength. So, one thing that stuck with me years ago that a friend of mine told me was the same people that you see on the way up are the same people you see on the way down.
Exactly.
How you treated that person is how they're going to treat you when they see you and when you meet again.
For
So,
sure. 100%.
um,
100%.
but yeah, man. So let's that was they just listened to this song. So I was gonna move on to next question I had for you was how did you celebrate the release, man? Was there like a fancy dinner? Did you guys go out, or did you just like kind of go home and pass out from being tired?
You know what? me personally, I feel like, when I released this project, I didn't necessarily celebrate at all, because I think when it's time to celebrate is when you start earning plaques off this, or if you start earning big streaming numbers, then that's the time that I feel like you should start celebrating. Because now when you just release this album, you don't know how it's gonna go. You don't know how many numbers it's gonna hit. You don't even know if you're gonna get a plaque off this. You might in the long run, and that's the time where you could celebrate. Be happy and grateful that you released this project. Yes, absolutely. Be happy. And that's how I was feeling. I was happy and I was relieved that, this album is done and it's out for the people and it's out for my fans and worldwide. And
A little bit
I'm
of weight
hoping that
off your
everybody
shoulders. Yeah.
off the weight. Exactly. The weight is off my shoulders. I can just relax and let it roll. Keep marketing it. And even, 2 years from now, I still have to promote it, because again, not everybody's gonna find out what it is. You know what I
Right,
mean?
man.
And especially if it's worldwide, nobody's gonna, just go on Instagram and be like, oh, what's this? Oh, let me listen to it. No, you have to get people to really get people's attention to go listen to it.
Right.
So keep marketing it. And that's why for me, I didn't celebrate it at all. I was just kind of cool in it. I was chill. Went to go get a coffee, just watching the people enjoy it, giving me their feedback and letting me know
Sitting
how
there
they're feeling
refreshing
about
the
it.
Spotify for artists, trying to
Yeah,
how many people
yeah,
listening.
that too. Yeah, that too. But again, I'm so proud of like how it turned out. And shout out to my guys in the studio with me who helped me out with this project. My boy Cruz and Mez and Caden and all these guys who just work in Angel Studios. Shout out to all those guys, because without them, this project wouldn't turn out the way it did.
Let's go, man. I was
So
gonna ask you if there was anybody else that worked on the album with you wanted to shout out, but you already did that, man. Good job.
yeah, yeah.
um, so now that it's out, are you more excited to dive into like your next creative project, or was it like a little stressful? Are you kind of holding back for a little bit and seeing how it does before you really kind of focus on your next thing, or
So for me, it's kind of like, okay, I have a fan base right now, but it's not as big where I should be thinking, you know what, maybe I'm going to release another album next year. My goal is to release this project, just like I did with the EP, release the project, now have it set in my catalog, have my fans listen to it, and then keep releasing new singles and music videos down in the upcoming months to come, because
right?
now you just want to keep gaining more fans. I just want to keep getting more fans, keep promoting my music, and the more fans that I get, maybe I can release another album in, I don't know, maybe 2 years from now, 3 years from now, depending how my fan base really grows. I think that makes the most sense, because when you don't have the biggest fan base and you're releasing such big projects like this, especially if it's a 20-song project, an album, and you don't have the biggest fan base, again, the numbers are not going to really hit.
Well,
And all that
fucking
money that you spent on this project is not going to really
yeah,
come back.
man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I was like, if you're like someone like Redman just released Muddy Waters 2, 30, what is it? I think it was 30 tracks he put on this thing.
yep, yep,
I was like, my dude, like you could have split that up into 3 different albums, man. but
exactly,
but he's
exactly.
Redman. He can do that. He can go put
Yep,
out a 30 album, a 30 track album and it'll still perform well. He's been doing
Absolutely.
this for years. Somebody who's just starting out, and that's what it kind of goes back to, like what you were just talking about. You're going to continue to release singles after this comes out. It's like your music is a product. If you have a product to sell, you're not just gonna say, "All right, I have this new product, guys," and
Yep.
then not say anything after that, right? You're gonna continue to market it. You're gonna continue to tell people about it after you've released that product. So
Yep.
why would it make any different from releasing an album or even releasing a single? Why would you stop marketing it? You know,
Exactly.
um, that and that's what I feel like a lot of new artists kind of put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, oh, I want to put out an album. I want to put out an album, but there's a lot of steps before putting out that album. You should release singles, maybe a couple EPs, maybe one EP a quarter or something like that, and build up your catalog because it's like each song or each EP or each album you put out is like putting another hook in the water. That's the way I
Oh
look at
yeah.
it. You're putting another hook in the
Exactly.
water, another hook in the water. It's another piece of bait in the water that for people to kind of nibble on, and you kind of slowly start to build that fan base, but
Exactly.
if you only have one album in your catalog for an entire year, especially if you're not marketing it,
Yep.
don't expect to be getting any plaques. So like, and not right anytime soon.
Nope.
um
Nope.
you gotta spend money to make money, man. Either that or you gotta
You have to.
put in the footwork, man.
You have to, and that's what will get those fans, those new fans, excited for your next upcoming project. The
Mm-hmm.
more music you release, the more excited they're going to get, especially if they love it.
Yep.
So again, just keep releasing singles, keep releasing new music, and like that, like Russ. I don't know if you know the artist Russ, but he said in an interview one time that even if you drop a single every week, every Friday, you're putting more music into your catalog, and that's what will keep bringing in new audience. You know what I mean? So again, the more you keep doing that, the more people that are going to get interested in your music. So just keep doing what you have to do, and then when the time is right, then release that type of projects, the big projects that we're all talking about right now with the Drakes and Kendricks and all these guys. You know what I mean? That's the
Mm-hmm.
proper time that you can start releasing all these songs, and people are actually going to sit there and wait for it and actually take the time to listen from top to bottom. So it only makes the most sense.
Guaranteed, like when you look at the albums, when people release albums, it's like the first like couple songs are usually the ones that are played the most, and then if you look at the
Yep.
numbers after that, they kind of get a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less, unless
Yep.
someone is
Yep.
really really digging that album, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so let's see. Are there any like lyrics in any of the songs on the album that kind of like made you feel vulnerable to release the song? And did like any like business concerns like marketability ever clash with you being authentic on the album?
No, not necessarily. I think when I dropped my EP, I was a little more concerned on dropping it on the specific date that it was supposed to drop because I've heard that Drake was supposed to drop that day. And luckily he didn't drop that day because now again, when when we have set release dates for these projects and it drops on a specific day and you have this big artist with like Drake drop on the same day, nobody's gonna listen to your songs. We rather listen to Drake right now. I suggest that any artists out here who are releasing projects, albums, EPs, whatever it is, drop on a specific time, but make sure you do your research and see who's going to drop on those specific dates. Because again, you don't have to drop on a Friday. You could drop it on a Thursday and then get
You could
people and promote it and get people to tune into it before that big artist drops on the Friday. So again, it's all about timing.
I
Time it
feel
right.
like the whole like new music Friday thing that play they have like a playlist or something like that on Spotify, right? I was
Yeah.
like, man, this is like a gimmick, bro. Because like, yeah, it's kind of like subconscious, like, oh, Friday, it's the weekend, people are gonna be home, they'll be able to listen to it. There are people
Yeah.
that listen to music while they're at work. There are people that listen to music while they're out and about shopping in the
Yep.
car and stuff like that. So I was like, when I was talking to my artist about it. I was like, we should just do fuck it. Let's just do new music Tuesdays. Like fuck that shit. Like fuck Friday.
Change it up a little bit.
No, who's releasing songs on a Tuesday, man? Like
Exactly. Exactly. Be different. Why not be different? Why do you have to be the same and copy every single thing that these big artists are doing? Be different. You know what I mean? Be yourself and do something a little different. And people are gonna notice it and they're gonna say, "Oh, this guy drops every Tuesday. Who the fuck does that?" You know what I mean?
right,
So
right.
again, be different. That's what you want to be. That's what you want to be doing as an artist. Is just being different. Catch people's attention.
Got you. So this one's a little little different. This question. What's the most unglamorous thing that you were doing right before your album dropped? Were you like stress refreshing analytics, like scrolling, refreshing the Spotify to see if people were even like pre-saving or anything like that? Were you fixing like the typos and the credits or anything? Like, was there something that you were like really
Um,
stressed out about before it?
yeah,
That
I would definitely say the credits for sure. You want to make sure that every credit is there, whether it's a producer, your mixing engineer, your cover art maker, even the photographer who took the photo to make
Yep.
that cover art. You want to make sure all those things are credited into that specific song or even the album. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
always want to credit those people because again, without producers and engineers and all these things, what are you as an artist? You're nothing. I could just spit on the mic without a beat, and then nobody would give a shit. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Everybody loves the beat.
you're a slam poet at that point, right?
There you go. You know what I mean? You might as well just do some stand-up comedy or just like again what you just said, right? So
Yep.
again, you have to give credit to these guys, and I see a lot of artists that don't give credit, where credit's due towards these producers specifically. I see a lot of producers complaining about, oh, I don't get my royalties off this artist, or I don't get enough credit off this artist, and this and that. And it's kind of sad to see because again, without that producer, without that beat, that song is not going to be the way it was. That it's not going to be exactly what you think it's going to be without him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So we always have to give credit towards your producers and engineers and all these guys because they make the magic behind the scenes. You might be the
100%.
face, but they make it they're making the magic behind the scenes, and that's where a lot of people don't seem to notice. That's uh, and they don't get enough credit for it. So for me, I was really stressing about if I had all the credits there, and I want to make sure that I did. And once it was all done, I was like, okay, you know what? Weight's off my shoulder. I'm good. These guys got their flowers. And again, we'll see how this album goes. And if you know what, it blows up and it goes crazy. Again, you guys are with me, and you guys help me with this whole project. So you guys got your
They're gonna be
flowers.
in that Grammy speech.
And there you go. You know what I mean? They're gonna get their flowers. They're gonna get everything they deserve because they helped me with this whole project. So again, for any artists out there listening, please do me a favor and please do him a favor and credit your producers. Okay, credit your producers, your engineers, and give them their split royalties. Let's
Absolutely,
not
man.
just beat around the bush and not give them their credit because again, without these guys, you guys are nothing. Even including myself. You know what I mean? So again, shout out to all the producers out there and engineers. You guys are doing great.
Absolutely, man. Just a couple more questions, man. So, what's the number one music business tip that you'd like to give to new artists that nobody told you when you first started, man?
Make sure you know your value. Make sure you know your value as an artist. Because again, you're a brand in the end of the day. You're your own brand.
Hmm.
Now, and I'm speaking specifically when you're doing shows or if you're doing features or if you're doing stuff like that and that includes the business so or includes money. Um, if you're a certain artist who has a big name for yourself and you're well known in your city or worldwide, whatever, make sure you get what you deserve in terms of shows and get paid what you need to get paid during your shows. Make it reasonable, of course. You don't want to make it so crazy to the point where these guys are calling you crazy, but make it reasonable and especially something that suits your value right now, so especially features. Like for example, if you're an artist and you're charging features $500 right now,
Hmm.
but you're in the midterm right there, right? You're a mid artist right now. You're known, but you're not so known yet. You know what I
Right.
mean? And you're charging $500. That's a good offer. I personally think that's a good offer. And make sure that if you are gonna give a feature to a certain artist that is willing to pay, make sure that they pay you with what you're offering. Because again, a lot of people love to do fishy things in this industry and love to beat around the bush and be like, hey, how about we do this and how about we do that instead?
Oh, there's a lot
I
of
don't think
snakes,
this is worth
man.
it.
Yeah.
I don't think this is worth it and that's not worth it. And it's like, no, don't let these people fool you because in the end of the day, you're the brand, you're the face of your own brand. So again, you are doing your own business. This is your own business and you have everything set for your own business. Don't let anybody come to you and tell you, oh, you should change this or change this because in the end of the day, you know where you're worth, right? So again, that's one piece of advice I can give to any upcoming artists out here because again, I've dealt with stuff like that before and
Hmm.
still dealing with it till this day. It never changes. You know what I mean? It
Nope.
never changes, and it never
No,
will.
that's never gonna change. There's gonna be snakes out there all the way up the ladder, man.
All the time, all the time. It don't matter where you're from. It don't matter if you're from Toronto like myself or from New Jersey like him. It
Yep.
don't matter where you're from. It's always gonna happen. And make sure you guys, keep your head up and keep a good vision and a good eye on what you're dealing with, because there's a lot of scums out there that are really trying to put you down. So, and try to finesse you in any way possible. So try to
Yep.
not let those people get to you and just know your worth. So yeah, that's
Gotcha.
one piece of advice I can give out.
Awesome, man. So speaking of shows, I saw that you had opened for Lil Xan on one of his tours in Toronto, man. Well,
Uh,
tell me a little bit about that. How did that happen, and how did that go, man?
that Man, that was crazy. That was the craziest probably show I've ever had in my life. I swear to God. I actually connected with a promoter that was supposed to be hosting this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I connected with him and I told him if there was any opening slots and if I can get this opportunity to perform and open up for him. And he said, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And of course, we all have slot prices. Oh, it's going to be this much and this and that. Luckily, it wasn't too much. And it was just, you know what, even if it was a lot, I'd still take the opportunity because, again, it's just worth it for me. It's beneficial. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm going to probably meet this guy and I'm probably going to learn some gems off this guy.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
Lil Xan, he used to be at the top. Maybe now, not so much. But again, he used to be up there. And I'm sure he has a
He's
lot of
still
hidden
he's
gems.
still he's still out there performing, man.
He's
Like he's
still there.
still getting spins. So
Again, like I didn't know what to expect when I got into that show because I'm here thinking, does this guy have the fans that he still had back then?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still thinking, how big is his fan base still, especially in Toronto? I'm thinking, how big is his fan base, and like, is this worth it for me? And I'm gonna learn from him and probably get to meet him and learn a couple things from him, and when I'm
Did
speaking
you
to
get
him
to
and
meet
stuff
him
like that.
or?
But I did get to meet him, but didn't have enough to chat. So
Gotcha.
that was the only problem there. But again, I can understand. He's a celebrity, of course, and his security's there, and you want to make sure that he's good and this and that. So again, it was cool that I met him and I got to at least say hi. You know what I mean?
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to get a photo, but it is what it is. And in terms of performing, his fans were just amazing, man. Like, his fans are just diehard fans. Like, that crowd was one of the craziest crowds I've had. Performing on stage and having people throw their phones on the stage for you to just grab and automatically.
No, no, someone
It was,
threw a phone on the stage for you to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We had people. I had some
That's
females in the
funny.
front trying to. They're holding out their phones, making sure that I'm grabbing it so I can, record a video so they can have it saved and this, and having people grab onto your pants and touch you in all sorts of ways. It was so weird in the end of the day. But again, those are just crazy fans, and you gotta
Mm-hmm,
love
mm-hmm.
it at the end of the day as an artist. That's an interaction that any artist would love and die for.
100%,
So
man.
again, it was amazing, man. Honestly, I was grateful for that opportunity and I was grateful for that promoter to even give me that chance. So again, it was a crazy show and he was a cool guy. I'm not gonna say Lil Xan's a bad guy. He's a really cool guy. And he's just doing his thing. Honestly, I was just grateful for that opportunity. It's a crazy show.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. I got one more question for you, man. And
Yeah.
then I'll let you talk and leave the listeners with some final thoughts. But if you had to hire someone tomorrow to handle one part of your business, what role would you prioritize and why?
Ooh.
Tough question.
I
I
would
saved the toughest one for last.
Yeah, that's a crazy question. I never gotten that question before. That's making me sit here and think. Um I would honestly say a booking agent. Probably a booking agent. In terms of like booking me for more shows
Okay.
worldwide outside of the city, booking me for interviews, booking me for radio interviews, radio plays,
Mm-hmm.
um, and also booking me to with labels, um, interviews and label meetings and here and there to try to get myself into a label, distribution label and stuff like that. I would probably hire a booking agent right now if I were to hire anybody. Um, that's probably that would probably be my top. Yeah, top
Good
person to
answer.
really
No,
ask.
that's a good answer, man. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because all right. So I mean, a lot of what let's be real. Spotify, iTunes, these streaming platforms don't pay a lot for streams. Radio
They go.
pays a little bit more. You know, and then you know the outside of that, well, you have album sales if you sell physical albums or digital albums, and then you have touring and merch. Like you're gonna make most of your money from touring. You're gonna make most of your money from doing shows or selling merchandise, uh,
Yep.
as opposed to waiting for that million streams from Spotify that you're gonna get a $3,000 check. Like,
Yep. Yep.
you gonna hold your breath for that $3,000? Or you gonna go do a couple shows and make that 3 grand in a couple months? You know, you could go do a tour and make that 3 grand back.
Yep.
You could
Yep.
go yeah, again, or you could pay your booking agent instead, you know, and have
Yep.
them book you for radio and interviews and stuff like that. But I mean, there are other things that you can do to make money as a music artist. I feel like a lot of artists now, young artists, I would say, are more focused on those vanity numbers, the streaming numbers, and their social media following and how many likes they get and stuff like that. When in reality, yes, those numbers do kind of matter to a certain degree, but getting out there and putting boots on the ground, I feel like is definitely more profitable for a business, from a business perspective, because this is a business. Your music, even though it's your passion, it's your art,
Yeah.
it is a business at the end of the day, and businesses have to make money to continue to stay in business.
Absolutely.
um,
No, even for the artists who don't know, like back then, internet wasn't big. How
nope.
do you think these artists really came up the way they are now? Drake and all
Standing
these
out in
guys. They
front of
didn't.
7-Eleven, handing out their mixtape,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
counts as an album sale. So in
There you
album
go.
sales, if you want to get on like the Billboard Top 100, they look at album sales. They don't necessarily look at stream.
Yeah.
You need like 3 times the amount of streams, if not more, to get on Billboard, Top 100 or whatever, than you do to sell albums. You could sell
Yeah.
170 albums, you can get on the Billboard Top 100. To be
Yeah.
honest with you,
Absolutely.
but you have to register with the right places too. So the reason why I think that's a good answer is because that is going to help you make immediate money to help fund your music career and put out your next projects. It's
Yeah.
money in hand as opposed to waiting for those streaming royalties or whatever to come in, which can
Absolutely. It will
take
help in the long
months.
run.
It can take months for those royalties to come in. You know.
It can help. This can help you in the long run, and that's what artists don't understand. It's like you can't just sit there. I understand the internet's big nowadays, and we have such amazing platforms that we're able to use, like TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat nowadays, and all of this. But like in the end of the day, it's kind of like what us as artists don't realize is that the more shows you do, and the more merch you sell, and the more even records that you're holding right now, and you're selling in the streets, like that can like make you so much more money than just sitting there, like you said, and waiting for your royalties to come in. Again, music is not all about the money. Absolutely
Mhm.
not. Again, you have to have a passion for it and a love for it. But again, if you're a business, and you want to make money, you don't want to just do this, lose money, and then make sure it doesn't come, back, and it's not going to benefit you whatsoever. So again, like you just pointed out, do more shows, do more interviews, do more merch, do more this and that would actually bring you money to your pockets as a
Mhm.
business, and not just sitting there waiting and let your song go viral on the internet and it's like, okay, now I'm not doing anything about it and money will come. It's not exactly how it would work. Yeah, sure, you're going to go viral. You're going to have a
Sometimes
hit
you hit
song.
lightning in a bottle, but I mean that's not going to happen every single time by any
Exactly,
means.
Exactly. And that was tough for me to even learn. I didn't even know any of this until, a couple of years from learning of this. I didn't know any of this. And it took me a couple of years to learn it. And I know exactly where it comes from. So again, this is a hidden gem for everybody listening right now. This is a gem that you guys need to be knowing is you don't just sit around waiting for royalties. You go out there and do something about it. You do shows, do merch, do something about it that
Be
can pay
proactive.
you. Be proactive, and it will pay you in your business. So again, be a proper business owner. You want to be a proper business owner in your own business. So again, do the right steps, and again, you're going to see a hit in the long run. Trust me. it will hit.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Is there anything else you want to leave with the listeners? Any final thoughts you want to leave with them before I let you go, man?
Yeah, for anybody out here listening, if you're not an artist, thank you for listening to the podcast. Shout out to you for having me on this podcast. I haven't had an interview for some time right now, and this was great to really speak about my album and just different things in general. And it was great speaking with you today. And shout out to all the viewers listening to right now and all the artists who are listening to this right now. Again, I hope you guys took this interview and you're putting it in your heads and making sure that you guys do the right steps in the long run. You know what I mean? I want to see everybody win. I want to see everyone doing their thing. And I hope to see everybody out there in the top soon. And again, shout out to my team. Shout out to all the guys who help me in the studio daily when I'm in there cooking up some new tracks. And again, just much love to everybody listening right here. And much love to you, brother, for having me on this. I couldn't thank you enough. And again, yeah, just a great interview in general. So I hope you guys all stay blessed, stay safe, and just stay healthy out here. Because nowadays a lot of people are getting sick and you don't want to be those people, trust me. It's not fun.
Man.
So again, try to stay healthy, safe. All of that.
I appreciate you, man. Well, thank you for joining us, Soares. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you guys